AMC paid its executives and CEO bonuses while the company is barely staying alive. Insiders are selling, and well, this magical short squeeze, the naked shorts, and all of this imagination is running wild and rampant here in the internet today, with so many different people, with so many different stories and conspiracy theories. Today we're talking about AMC once again and how this company is doing everything the wrong way. And we're also going to talk about this magical short squeeze that everyone says is coming sooner than later right here in this video. So make sure you guys stay tuned. So I think it's really funny that a lot of people think that this guy right here, the CEO of AMC, is their friend. For some reason, people believe that the CEO and the executives of AMC have their best interest in mind when it comes to running this company. But what's really interesting here is that just recently, this year, the company obviously has seen a drastic increase in share price, and the company has been able to capitalize off of that momentum by selling shares to raise more capital to stay alive and to at least have enough cash to keep in business or stay in business until 2022. So looking at the AMC Entertainment insider trades, this is going to basically show us the executives of the company. You know, are they buying? Are they selling? And if you look here at the Q1 of 2021, they sold $589 million worth of the stock, and they continue to sell as we move into Q2 here of 2021. Now, what's really interesting here is that as the stock price has just been skyrocketing, the insiders are dumping and dumping and dumping. And well, it seems like all of the apes and all the supporters of the stock are totally fine with that, which is very interesting because if you look at other, CEOs of major companies and things like that, they normally, when they see potential with a company, they hold on to those shares and then look to capitalize in the future. Someone like Jeff Bezos with Amazon, with Elon Musk and Tesla. When you have conviction for the company that you're running as the CEO, you in theory would hold on to shares because those shares would be much higher in value in the future if you really do see a turnaround. But instead, what does this show us? That the executives, the CEO of the company, really have no faith in the company itself. Gave its CEO $3.75 million bonus, paying a total of $8.3 million in bonuses for extraordinary efforts during the pandemic. Now, what's really funny about that is thousands and thousands, I think it was like 30, 40,000 employees of AMC were laid off because of COVID, while the CEO of the company, the company is going down faster than we can even count at this point. They are burning money faster than a dumpster fire full of money at this point. But what's really interesting is that the CEO received a major bonus for doing what? Keeping a company doors closed throughout COVID and then basically orchestrating this massive squeeze in the stock price. And what's funny about that is it ended up actually backfiring on the company itself because number one, the share price has went to the moon, but number two, the company wanted to sell another 500 million shares, but guess what? All of the investors, the shareholders, started to revolt saying, hey, no, you cannot double the float because that would dilute my shares and that would also stop the impending short squeeze. And well, it's just very interesting to see that the company itself, AMC, would reward its executives for what? For doing absolutely nothing during the pandemic to keep this company alive? How is that? What kind of company like AMC would go and reward a CEO $5 million for doing nothing? Literally doing nothing. Keeping the movie theaters closed during the pandemic and then reopening some of those movie theaters here in 2021. But still, the company is burning cash faster, like I said, than a dumpster fire at this point. So it's really interesting looking at how the insiders have been selling and selling and selling faster than they could ever sell before. It's even more interesting to look at the Chinese billionaire Wang Jianlin sold 30 million shares between May 13th and May 18th approximately for $427 million. And what's really interesting as well with the Chinese billionaire that ended up selling is that those shares that they sold could have really almost been worthless, going into 2021 if things would have kept going in the direction they were going. But instead, you have this retail trader army supporting the share price, basically allowing insiders, allowing the CEO, allowing executives, allowing these big funds to dump shares on the market at a very exuberant price. At the end of the day, the company has $1.2 billion that they raised from basically selling shares to you guys, to the ape investors, at a exuberant price, way over market value, because of this magical short squeeze that everyone keeps talking about. And we're going to talk about that as well. But at the end of the day, as the share price of the stock is increasing, all of its other things are also increasing as well. All of its liabilities, its interest rates on its debt are ballooning. The debt is ballooning. If you look at the actual fundamentals of this company, I know people don't want to hear about fundamentals. It is looking very, very, very bleak for this company to ever be able to get out of the hole that they are in because of the debt, the interest. Everything is rising right now. And well, they're able to raise money by offering those shares, by selling those shares beginning of this year. But now they can't sell shares until this vote has gone through, and then possibly not be able to sell because the vote might not go through to pass to sell shares. So basically, they've now really shot themselves in the foot because they can no longer raise capital to stay in business moving forward if the investors don't allow them to sell shares. And it's really interesting because they have all of this debt load and they do not have the cash flow to service that debt. But the CEO of the company gets a bonus. The executives of the company get a bonus. You as a shareholder, if you bought at the $30 or $40 area, what bonus do you get? I understand people bought at $10 and they're still up 300% because the stock price is at $30. But in general, if you really look at what's going on with this company, it's amazing to see that so many people are getting behind the CEO. So many people are getting behind this company while the company is just continuously doing things to basically slap to poop right on the shareholders themselves. So I found this article last night while I was doing research, trying to learn more about the FTDs, the synthetic shares, and all these numbers that people keep touting so aggressively online. One minute there's 1 billion shares that are naked, another minute there's 100 million. Sometimes there's no one really knows. And it's even funnier because the CEO of the company came out and said, 80% of the float is owned by retail traders. But that was based on what? A poll? It was based on a poll that the CEO basically did and then had this Excel spreadsheet that then talked about, if a certain amount of shareholders, this many shares, and the shareholders do this. It's all hypothetical. There is no actual fact that the retail army, the apes, own 80 to 90% of the float like they claim. There is no fact that proves that other than the CEO of the company basically going and saying, hey, I've done the math. I've had a poll and we've asked shareholders how many shares they own, and now we have this magical number that basically proves that there's 80% or 90% of the float is owned by retail traders. And last time I checked, we live in reality, but I think a lot of people are living very, very far off into a fantasy world that they believe basically anything and everything that is said on the internet that would increase the chance of them becoming rich from AMC stock going to the moon. And let's be fair about that. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, people are not invested in AMC because they want to, change the world. People are investing in AMC because they want to get rich. And well, that comes down to one very fundamental idea with the stock market. Greedy people normally end up losing money, especially when a massive amount of people, obviously the Reddit army, the massive amount of people all feel very, very convicted, or very, very, all these people feel very certain that this thing will happen. And one thing that I've learned over the last 5 years in the market is when things seem to be certain or seem to be too good to be true, they normally are. And there's so many conspiracies at this point. The conspiracy that I'm getting paid by hedge funds. The conspiracy that people are going on YouTube and taking down videos about AMC being bullish. and that YouTubers are suffering because they're talking about AMC being bullish, that the hedge funds and Google are working together. Do you guys not see how insane this actually is? So going through this article, we've already talked about, we know that AMC has been raising a lot of money. They raised $230 million at the beginning of June by selling 8.5 million shares to a hedge fund, Murdoch Capital, which is even funnier. They sold it at $27, and guess what? The hedge fund then basically flipped their shares and sold for a 20% profit, making millions of dollars, while shareholders of AMC are still holding the bag if they bought at the $40 to $50 area where Murdoch Capital sold their position. So AMC, the company, sold shares to the hedge fund, and then guess what? The hedge fund then dumped those shares on the market to the Reddit investors. Wow. Is it just me, or does it seem like there's maybe something else really going on here with this whole deal, and that maybe the Reddit investors, the ape army, is just being used and abused here? I'm not sure. But I feel like somebody here is really is getting used and abused at this point. And I don't feel like it's the company itself. I feel like it's actually the retail army investor. So the short thesis, the idea here is that there's 100 million shares or more, possibly billions of synthetic shares sold short, which would make the short ratio of the company around 20%. This is a little bit older of an article, so I'm not sure exactly what the short ratio is today, but I think it's right around 20%, maybe a little less. Now, the idea is that every time AMC's short interest ratio dropped in 2021, it immediately recovered. But this is also showing that there is no evidence of a real short squeeze, which is being basically promoted here on the internet and on, all these different places. And now what's interesting is that AMC's short interest has been rising since February, and the short interest ratio is now back to where it was at the beginning of the year, above 20%. Now, extreme overvaluations obviously attract short sellers and hedge funds to come in and then look for opportunity to make money when something gets very overvalued in a sense. So at the end of the day, these short sellers are continuing to increase their bearish bets on AMC going into, June, July, with the idea that this company basically is running out of money faster than they can stay in business. Now, obviously, there's major risk based, on being a short seller of this stock. There's obviously the risk to it. But at the end of the day, when you look at the actual short interest percentage of total shares, it's not insane. And we've seen a little bump up. We haven't seen any decline. So what's really interesting is if you look at the chart, we had a massive squeeze back there in May. The stock went from $10 to $76. But during that time, the short interest did not decline drastically. We did not see a massive decline in short interest. So what this would lead us to believe when looking at the chart and when looking at the idea that, shorts are not covering massively through this squeeze, that they probably are adding to their positions at this point, especially, as this is going insanity. They were adding to their positions through that. You can see all the volume coming in there, volume. But it wasn't from short sellers. It was from the retail investors buying into the hype and basically creating this a massive move out of thin air based on nothing more than the idea they believed that the stock was going to go to $1 million, $100,000, or $1,000, or $100, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, this whole thesis that the shorts have to cover at a certain point, that the FTDs, the fail to deliver percentages are going insane. Everyone believes that there's so many, magical amount of shares out there, but it's pretty much proof, looking at the short interest, that this whole entire move, this was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost a week, a little bit more than a week. Throughout this entire move, we did not see a massive decline in short interest, and we did not see a massive increase in short interest at that point. So it's very interesting to see that this entire move here happened basically based on retail investors buying into FOMO, buying into hype, and chasing this stock higher. Now the stock closed yesterday. I think it closed after hours around $34. You can see as well, it's still right below that 50 moving average. That moving average could, now turn this down and start to curl to the downside here. And that's obviously what we do not want to see. If you're a long AMC holder, that's not what you want to see. But right now, it's pretty clear, that it's just not holding like people believe that it would hold. It's right there at that support right now, but I do believe that this is going to continue lower at some point. Now, obviously, there is always a chance that this does bounce back up. As long as the stock price cannot break above this area here at the $64 area, it really means nothing. If AMC pushes back to the $50 area, all that's going to do is end up suckering in more longs, more retail investors to then buy. And then guess what? If the stock goes here, it goes back down, and they're stuck holding the bags once again. Now, I understand. People, want to change the world. People think that this is the way to do it. Basically, investing in a company that really, really has so much going against it. They're not revolutionizing anything. They're not changing the game. They're not bringing a new product to market. They're trying to keep a old business model, being the movie theaters, in business still. So we've really got to ask ourselves, where is AMC heading from here? Will there be another big bounce? Will there be a squeeze? There's a lot of information out there, but I think a lot of the information is being skewed to basically fit the narrative of the ape army, the FTDs, the synthetic shares. Everyone keeps talking about all of these magical numbers, how the retail investors own the float based on basically the CEO of the company saying, hey, the retail I've done the poll. I've spent, I did the math. The retail investors are owning the float. When really this is not factual. There is no actual fact that states that retail investors own the float, other than people just standing around the internet saying, yes, we own the float, we own it, we own it, we own it. So that's really interesting to see what is going on with this company. The CEO taking a major bonus when the company is barely staying alive. Well, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Think about that. The people out there, the retail investors, the ape army, bought shares of the company so that basically the CEO could get a $5 million bonus. That's all I have to say. That's all. I would never invest in a company like AMC when the company is burning cash, losing money daily. It's losing money every single month, but the company still rewards the CEO of the company that's losing money. Why would a CEO ever get a bonus when a company is losing money? How does that actually work? Who would actually invest in this? I'm so confused. I can't even continue anymore. I gotta go. All right, so there it is. My latest and greatest debacle here. AMC. We're going to see what happens. At the end of the day, the price is all that really matters, and we will see what happens here in the future. But this is the information that I have, and I'm sharing it with you guys. So maybe you can make a more informed decision and not get caught up in all the hype that's out there. So talk to you guys later on.